Hey everyone, I'm Penny with Specialty Outdoors, and I recently retired, closed my business, so hopefully I'll have more time to do some videos and tutorials on some of the things I've been wanting to do over the years. So today I want to talk about how I handle PDF patterns. Now I kind of feel late to the party because I only just discovered these about 2 years ago. I've been too busy working to really look into what was going out there in sewing land, and it's pretty amazing. And um, I've done what we all do. I printed out all 24 pieces of paper and tape it all together and cut it out for that size. And then I've got to like roll it up and stuff it in a bin or cut it out and put it in my closet on hangers, or fold it up and stuff it in an envelope like this. And I wasn't real happy about that. It really seemed like a lot of work. And a friend of mine turned me on to a method she was using, and I modified it a little bit, and I'm really happy with it. I'm going to share that with you today. I'm not on the projector train right now. Anyway, my space isn't ideal for some different reasons, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So let's talk about this. I wish I had a cool name for this technique, but I don't. What I'm doing is I'm printing out the pattern, but I'm not taping it together. I print it out once with all the sizes, or all the sizes I think I'm ever going to use. And when we're done with this, we still have a perfectly intact pattern that we can reuse if we want, but I'm not taping it together, and we don't have to deal with all the tape and the layout and what to do with this paper. And then what I'm doing is I'm tracing the pieces off without the pattern being taped together, and I'm using Pellon grid, and I get these nice soft pattern pieces like this. They fold up really easily. You can store multiples very easily in an envelope with less bulk. They're much easier to reuse than paper because they don't crease. You can just smooth them out. You can alter it really easy. You can even sew it together if you want to use a muslin. And I just find it's the storage and handling of the Pellon over paper taped together that I really like. I've also discovered that this is a really fast way to trace patterns, and anything that's fast and easy and makes my life better for sewing makes me happy. So let me show you what we need, and I'll walk you through how I do it. So getting everything ready to do a Pellon trace off. First of all, you need to print your pattern out. If you're using leftover printer paper and printing on the other side of it, that's even better. You're using saving paper that way. Print out the or have available on a laptop or whatever, the panel that shows you the layout grid for all your pieces, because even though we're not going to tape them together, we are going to use this grid to kind of set us up for what we're going to be doing. I have the whole pattern here. In this case, I'm just doing 4 sizes. This is something for my boys, so we don't need a lot of different sizes here, but this is all the sizes I think I'll ever need with this pattern. I've also printed out the front of it and the information sheet, and I have my envelope all ready. This is how I store these. They stack up really nice in a bin. So that's what you do to get your pattern ready. We're not going to trim the edges. We're not going to tape it together. You will need some blue painter's tape, and I just tear it off into little bits to get it ready, and I get those on my table there. So you have pieces of blue tape ready to go. We need good tracing items, and so these are the tools I use for tracing the patterns. I have a big, I think this is called a sleeve curve, straight edge, and 2 different French curves. For me, this is what makes this go really fast, is having the right tracing items, because you don't have to freehand anything, and it's really fast. So these are really cool. Also, something about French curves that I learned in pattern drafting is if you have an assortment, you can always find whatever piece of the curve you're running into, on your arm side or your collar. You can always find that exact piece of the curve somewhere on one of your French curves. We need some scissors. We need some pens. I use just a good strong ballpoint pen. I've played with Sharpie, but it bleeds through too much. And then, of course, we need some Pellon grid. And I buy this by the bolt at Joann's when it's 40% off. And I have a bunch of pieces here because when I'm doing this, I'll end up with chunks left over. And so I just save those because you can always get a smaller piece out of the scraps. So to get this ready, I know I keep saying we don't tape the whole thing together, but we don't tape the whole thing together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do one little piece of this pattern. I think I'm just going to do this pocket right here to illustrate the technique, and then we can do a bigger piece. But so I see I need these 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of the pattern to get this pocket. So I'm going to pull those out, and then I'll show you what we do next. All right, so what I've got here is these are the 2 pages that make up the pocket pattern. And we're going to start small just for the demo, and then we'll do a bigger piece. And this is the basic technique here. We lay our pattern down, we match it up very carefully, and then we use a couple of blue pieces of blue tape. We use blue tape because it's reusable to stick this thing together. And right now I've got it stuck down on the table. If you have more than 2 pieces, they'll probably just be stuck to each other. One thing I've learned with this technique is you really figure out quickly which designer's way of the edges and the little corner markings and everything you really like. This one's Wardrobe by me. It goes together really nicely, actually. So I've got my pattern secured. Now I'm going to grab one of my scraps of Pellon, and I like to make sure that the strong grid is up top. And I'm going to lay the Pellon down, and I'm going to match up the grid lines with like a grain line arrow or one of the straight line indicators. If you have like a center front fold line, that works really good. And you don't even have to lay it out on the grid, but you know, we have nice straight lines to work with. And I'm going to stick this thing down with just a couple pieces of blue tape. I've got it lined up. There's the straight grain there. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to trace off the large line here, but I'm going to start, of course, with my grain line. And this is the top. I can label it. So I've labeled it Wardrobe by Me jacket, pocket lining, size. And this one's going to be size large, cut 2. And this one's got a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now that grain line is the only straight line on here, so I'm going to grab my, from the looks of this one, I'm going to need these nice long curves here. Usually at your seam intersections, that's going to be straight lines that are at right angles to each other. Okay, there's that. A little tiny bit of a straight line right up here on the top. All right, so a different curve right there. Let's do this one. And then our straight line again. Okay, and there's no notches. Oh wait, there's a notch right here. So I'm just going to mark my notch with a slash. And a notch down there. I've got all my instructions marked. And peel the tape off. I can reuse it. Here is my pattern piece for the hood. You see how fast that was? Now, if I'm really inspired, I could do more sizes at once because, like I mentioned, this is really easy to store. But I'll do those later. Now I'm going to show you how I would do a bigger piece. Oh, did that not record? So here's the next part I'm going to cut out. What I did is I went ahead and laid everything out so I could see what I have. This is a 2-part sleeve. And so you can see this one section is 3 pages. And this other section, well, they give you 7, but we could probably get away with 6, I think. So the way that I would work this is I would do this one first. Because I don't want to reach over my table for all this tracing. So I'm going to do this one first. And then I would come back and I would do the next one. So again, I'm going to secure this with some blue tape. And see, I don't think I mentioned it's reusable, but what's really nice is you can take this blue tape and you peel it off these pattern pieces carefully, and that's how you end up with nice printouts that you can put in your envelope. So here I've got my, let's see, what is it? This is the part 1 of the sleeve, undersleeve soft shell, and I've got it all taped down and ready to trace. So let's see, well this, of course that's not going to fit, so we're going to put this down here, find the grain line. And put some blue tape down. So I've got this secured with 2 pieces of blue tape, and that feels really good. So let's go ahead and trace this sleeve off one side. There's my grain line. And so one thing I will notice, sometimes when I'm working with multiple sizes, the lines can be hard to see. If you've got a color printer, that will make your life much easier. Sometimes I'll go over them with a highlighter if it's really complicated, but in truth, I just try and pay attention. But you know, the grade is interesting because the size large, you know, it's on the outside and then it comes to the inside. So you do need to pay attention to your grade a little bit. But and I find if we just kind of follow it around, okay, and so here's our, and this is going to be a very, very slight curve here. Sorry about my arm in the way. You see the top of the curve is a straight line there. Might as well get our other straight lines drawn while we've got the straight line ruler out. And this is going to be straight for a little bit here. And straight there, and then we just have to do our curves. And Sometimes you have to put the ruler on it to see if your line is straight or furrowed. Okay, we've got 3 notches here. And that's all our notches. I will, oh, there's a length and shorten line. We want to put that on there. I'm sure you have your own code, just like I have mine. I'll label this piece off camera and then we'll work on a big 6-panel piece. You see how fast that was? So as I start working on the last piece of the sleeve, I want to show you how easy this is to preserve this nice printout. For whatever reason, you might want to preserve it. There you go. So now the last piece I have here is this 6 pieces for this big other part of the sleeve here. So again, same thing. I'm going to lay them out very carefully. This time I'm not going to stick it to the table because I'm working with more than one line of pieces. And so this piece goes here. And I don't know about you, but I always found that, you know, once you start putting multiple pieces together, that's when they start shifting a little bit. And maybe I'm the only one that's ever had that problem and you guys all get them all flat perfectly. Who knows? And this one, oops, didn't get a pin there. This one goes here. This is why I get my tape ready ahead of time, because it will do this. Okay, so now I've got my big panel all basically secured. I do like to put the corners where the corners meet down just because that's where things like to shift. And now that I've got it all together, now I'll tack it down on the table. Because this one's so long, I'm going to tack it down here too. Let's see, another pin. We don't want pins in there. And so just like before, I take my Pellon, find the right size piece. Make sure I've got the whole pattern piece. Nothing's worse than doing this and getting your tracing done and realize you didn't put enough in for, you know, the end of a sleeve or something like that. And all it takes is a couple of pieces of this stuff to secure everything. And ready to trace. I think you've seen me trace enough of these things that I'm not going to walk you through it one more time, but this is the basic procedure. All right, well, there you have it, my PDF Pellon tracing method. I hope you can glean something useful out of this, maybe save yourself some time so you can spend more time sewing. I will show you, this is what my storage system looks like. This is what works for me. I do have a closet full of patterns on hooks. You know, with the apostrophe custom patterns, those I haven't figured out how to do this, and those just come out on paper, and that's how they're going to come out. Maybe someday I'll get the projector figured out, and that'll be a whole different story. But this works for me, and it makes my sewing easy. So until next time.